different startup companies. We are going to have 8 different startup companies present their pitch here. 4 for the Bitcoin Foundation Prize will be awarded $10,000 US worth of Bitcoin. So they're not going to get any dollars, they will only get Bitcoin because we all like Bitcoin more than dollars here. And then the Ripple award category winner will receive 500,000 XRPs. And I don't know how many dollars approximately that is at the moment, but Chris is here, maybe.
Good amount.
A good amount. So, that's the best answer, I suppose. So the way it's going to work is each business has 10 minutes to give their pitch, and then there's going to be 5 minutes for quick questions.
We provide simple, plug-and-play and paperless ways for businesses to accept Bitcoin, really at the moment geared towards small independent merchants. So if you've been in the Bitcoin space for a while, you may know our team's previous work, which was bitcoinaverage.com, the first Bitcoin weighted price index, operational since August 2013, and we serve about 60,000 users a month. Myself, I come from an unorthodox background. I was originally an officer in the army for 6.5 years, and I've been running a small business for the last 4 years. But my passion, personally, has always been technology. The other Aleks, he's our resident software genius. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, so if there's anything really technical, I might waver. And we've got one non-exec director, Nadav Rosenberg. Nadav's a major Bitcoin proponent, and he currently heads up Tabula's Australia, and prior to that, he was part of the founding team of Groupon UK and Ireland. So, the problem. Merchants want to accept Bitcoin, but most of the existing ways either lack critical features or they expose merchants to the risk of accepting Bitcoin, the wildly fluctuating exchange rates. Do they want it at all, you may ask? Well, certainly it's true at the moment that the merchants accepting Bitcoin now are early adopters. However, we see utility in Bitcoin for all merchants because with Bitcoin they can lower their electronic transaction costs and at the end of the day increase their bottom line. So, what did we do to help them? We created the XBTerminal. It's a hardware device that operates in a similar way to a credit card machine, except there's no cards and it works with a mobile wallet. I'll cover the way that it works in some detail. So, first of all, apologies for the confusing diagram. I hope everyone can see. The merchant enters the amount to be paid in fiat. The terminal goes away and queries a payment processor and gets back an offer for a guaranteed return of fiat and displays the transaction in both the local currency and Bitcoins. With an Android mobile, you can use NFC, so you touch it to the terminal, the transaction gets sent straight across to the phone and you pay on the phone. There's also a QR code fallback for non-NFC enabled devices. So in the case that it's not using BIP70, then the terminal will be listening out on the Bitcoin network for visibility of the transaction. And once it's seen it, will clear the transaction and you can touch the mobile device again or scan the QR code and download a receipt. So it's a very quick and simple process. We've also created an online dashboard for merchants, which provides in effect a reconciliation backend where the merchant can download centralized receipts, at the moment either in PDF or CSV format, or they can have them emailed at a set time of day. The plan for the back end and what we're working on at the moment is to expand that into small business accountancy packages like Xero, using their plugin APIs, so that you can pull data directly about your Bitcoin sales straight into your business accounting packages, because we see that what merchants need is easy integration of Bitcoin into their existing systems. We're also working on some other things. There's going to be a light version of the terminal, which will be a software app, which will run on Android devices. It will offer exactly the same functionality. It will offer the same reconciliation facility on the back end, and it will be free for them to download it as a feeder to get merchants in early before they see the need for the hardware device. Once that's complete, we'll be making a second generation device designed for integration into hardware point of sale systems. So the market size, I guess everyone in the room is fairly familiar with this, but I'll cover it anyway. At the moment, there are around 4,500 real-world merchants accepting Bitcoin and bricks and mortar businesses, and that's growing at around 12% monthly or 390% annually. So by the end of the year, there should be something in the region of 10,000 bricks and mortar businesses accepting Bitcoin. However, the actual figure is probably more than that, because these statistics come from CoinMap, and I'm conscious in London, certainly where I live, that there are a lot of businesses accepting Bitcoin which haven't registered, but there's no way to accurately account for those, unfortunately. User base supports the growth as well, so both Blockchain Info and Coinbase, the two largest online wallet providers, have grown by more than 1 million users each in the last year, and they're continuing to grow around 9% a month. Our business model is pretty simple. We make money from device sales, from physical device, although that's not a lot. But the main part is a 0.5% commission on transactions, and that covers the ongoing maintenance of the back-end services to provide all of the reconciliation facilities. So where do we see the business going? The key metrics. So we see at the moment that we'll probably be at a break-even point in November next year, with 480 devices operational, around 40 transactions a day, and an average transaction value of £7 or about $12. And that should, we think, equate, looking forward to the growth, to about a 1.5% market share. So the scalability. We designed the system from the ground up to be really, really easy to grow. It's fully decentralized in its operation. Each terminal contains its own SPV node, so it can interact with and verify the Bitcoin transactions in place inside the hardware device. So we'll never have a large overhead for a centralized back-end to process Bitcoin transactions, and of course the costs incurred with it. It also removes the single point of failure or attack target, of centralizing the Bitcoin funds on a server somewhere. We will, of course, still run a few well-connected nodes to support the SPV operation of the terminals, but that's nothing compared to the overhead we'd have otherwise. Our USPs then. We're standing in a pretty unique position at the moment with a product that offers much more advanced functionality than the other hardware products available at the moment, and it's obviously nearly a pristine market that's growing at an incredible rate. We're also the only hardware point-of-sale system that integrates the payment processors to the extent where we receive an offer from them and the merchant gets back a guaranteed amount of fiat on every transaction if that's what they want to do and not keep the bitcoins. We're currently able to integrate with BitPay, BIPs and CryptoPay in the UK, and we're working on adding more. The advantage of this being that the merchant isn't exposed to the sometimes wildly fluctuating exchange rate. We're also the only hardware device with full support for BIP70 or the Bitcoin payment protocol. So I'll cover that. For those of you that haven't been following the developments, the Bitcoin payment protocol is a way for merchant and client to interact directly with each other without needing to go sort of via the Bitcoin network. So the way it works is on the initial payment request that comes with the QR code or the NFC, there's a Bitcoin payment, there's a Bitcoin address in there included for payment. So the phone receives that, and when it signs the transaction, it sends it directly to the terminal back via Bluetooth, and the terminal can verify that and process it and broadcast it to the network. Now I should say that we have to give credit here to Andreas Schildbach, who initially came up with the Bluetooth implementation on the Android wallet, and currently his wallet is the only one that works with that process, but I'm sure the others that have been based upon it will catch up with their code base soon. So the main advantage to this is that the customer's phone doesn't need to have a data connection. So there are so many shops, bars, clubs where you can't get a phone signal inside, and it's not convenient to have to connect up to Wi-Fi to use Bitcoin to pay. So with this, basically the data just gets sent via the terminal. So it's not only more secure, but has a great advantage for all users. So I would be remiss not to mention our main hardware competitor. You've probably all heard of them, Canadian company called CoinKite. For efficient operation, their terminal really needs the pre-registration debit card. Otherwise, you need to print out a receipt with the QR code. Whilst printing receipts is a useful facility, I will acknowledge, if you need to print one for most transactions where people haven't registered, it could become inconvenient. At the moment, CoinKite look like they have about 1.4% market share based on the number of businesses I assess and the number of terminals they have listed on their website. So there's still plenty of room for another player in the market.
10 seconds.
Okay. The current status then, where we're at now, we've got 4 beta prototypes. Commercial beta started at 2 merchants. And we're now looking for funding to grow the team and scale production, and we're about to start a crowdfunding campaign on bankofthefuture.com. Thanks very much for listening.
We have 5 minutes for questions. Don't waste time.
Aleks, who is your customer?
At the moment, we see our customer being smaller independent retailers. We've been focusing very much in our initial phase of rollout in the community around Shoreditch in London, where there are a lot of early adopters. With the hardware terminal, because it doesn't have the point of sale integration, that lends itself to places like bars and smaller retailers that are using at the moment a standalone card machine or something like that, because they can easily integrate that into their process.
Bill of material cost. Do you charge the merchant? What is your business model? Cost of the device. What does it cost you to make?
Yeah.
Do you charge the merchant for that device, or do you give it to them? And what is your business model?
Okay, so the device costs us on a self-cost at the moment about £160 to make. We're planning to charge £200 plus VAT on it, so we're not looking to make a lot of money there. The main revenue stream is designed to be that 0.5% revenue coming in. And I should clarify that the light version, the software app, will be free, so we'll only anticipate merchants really coming in to buy the terminal when their volume increases to such an extent that it's no longer convenient for them to have their phone at the till the whole time.
And that 0.5% is on top of BitPay's fees?
Yes, that would be correct.
So how do you overcome the friction with merchants in trying this out and wanting to acquire them as users, but having that friction and the cost involved? What's your user acquisition strategy?
Okay, so the app is really key to the user acquisition strategy because they can download the app for free. In the UK, certainly they can register with CryptoPay for free. So there's not any actual initial overhead incurred by them having the system there available to use. And so we hope that once they put it in place, we provide them the sciencing and see the benefit. And of course, compared to a card transaction, which they're paying fees on anyway, even taking into account all the fees, our 0.5% the payment processor, it still works out cheaper.
So you've got a hardware company, essentially.
Yeah.
And you've also spec'd out like feet on the ground sales strategy, where you got to go in and actually get them to pay you, right?
Yeah.
Does your team have expertise in either of those two things? Or are both of those new for you?
Well, so with the hardware side, we've used an open source platform inside the device, BeagleBone Black, which Aleks has had experience of working on before. We brought in some outside expertise to do the 3D design for the enclosures. We've used 3D printing, and now we're moving on to injection molding. So actually, what the terminal is running on is quite simple, and we haven't had to build anything sort of really crazy. We're now looking to go out to have a custom board design that integrates everything into one piece, so it's cheaper. But the hardware part is very much reliant on external expertise, and our team's core expertise is really on the software and the usability.
So then on the hardware, how fast can that scale based on those suppliers?
That's an excellent question. So at the moment, the BeagleBone Black is in very short supply globally. So we're currently getting quotations to have the entire board manufactured ourselves, which so far we're probably looking at maybe $10,000 for an initial batch. So it will work out perhaps slightly more expensive, but if we've got the demand, we can get the parts. We've got about a 6-week manufacturing lead time.
It's easier for the merchant, it's cheaper for the merchant.
Yep.
Suppose it's easier for the merchant, it's easier for the merchant.
Yep.
But you need a consumer to use this. And the
Yep.
consumer right now has no problem paying the way they pay. It's much more convenient to swipe a card or pay in cash than it is to open an app have the Bluetooth turned on, make sure that you can tap, make sure that you can validate, make sure that you can do all of this, connectivity or non-connectivity. You need, it's not enough the transaction fee to be low for the merchant to convince the consumer to have it. And in which geography would you focus when it's very hard to buy Bitcoins in the UK, for example, for the typical consumer? So how do you solve that chicken and egg from a startup perspective?
So at the moment in London, we've got a very, very strong Bitcoin ecosystem. We've got the largest Bitcoin meetup in the world. There are 3 companies putting ATMs in, and there's a huge amount of Bitcoin outreach going on. So in conjunction with those projects, we've been rolling out the terminals. So 2 of the sites that have got the Robocoin ATMs have also got our terminals in there. So we're making a team community effort to get this accepted, and seems to be going quite well so far.
And that's time. Thank you
All right,
very
thanks
much.
very much.